I'm taking the china cabinet, my daughter Shanice announced, running her manicured fingernails across the hutch my late husband Herbert had saved 6 months to buy me for our 25th anniversary. It'll look perfect in my dining room. The TV is mine, my youngest son DeAndre said, already unhooking the cables from the flat screen the church youth group had pooled together to give me last Christmas. Mama won't need it where she's going. My eldest, Terrence, was in the corner with his wife Vanessa, making a list on her phone. They were dividing my life into columns: keep, sell, donate. I noticed my wedding photos landed in the donate column. Mama, Terrence finally looked at me, his voice taking on that patient tone you'd use with a confused child. We need to talk about your living situation. I lowered myself into Herbert's old recliner, the one with the worn armrest where his hand had rested for 32 years before the Lord called him home. What about my living situation, baby? The three of them exchanged glances. This was rehearsed. They'd practiced this. Shanice sat on the ottoman in front of me, blocking my view of DeAndre, who was now eyeing my microwave. Mama, you're 70 years old. You can't keep living alone in this big house. What if you fall? What if something happens? I'm fine, I said. I walk 2 miles every morning before sunrise. I volunteer at the church food pantry 3 days a week. Pastor Williams just asked me to coordinate the— That's exactly the problem, Terrence interrupted. You're doing too much. You need rest. You need supervision. The word hung in the air like a bad smell. Supervision. Like I was a teenager who couldn't be trusted. We found a place, Vanessa chimed in, her voice sticky sweet. Sunnybrook Care Facility. It's very affordable, and they have activities. Bingo on Thursdays. I almost laughed. These children thought they knew what was best for me. They had no idea what I'd been through, what I'd survived. I'd worked 2 jobs to put all 3 of them through college while Herbert was alive, and then 3 jobs after he died to make sure they graduated debt-free. I'd gone without new clothes for 5 years, so Terrence could go to Howard. I'd driven a car with no air conditioning through 2 Mississippi summers, so Shanice could have her dream wedding. I'd postponed my own hip surgery, so DeAndre could make that down payment on his townhouse. And now? Now they wanted to warehouse me in some facility that smelled like industrial cleaner and despair. This is my home, I said quietly. Herbert and I built this life. Mama, be realistic. DeAndre finally stopped circling my possessions like a vulture. You can't afford this house on your Social Security. The property taxes alone, I manage just fine. You manage because you eat peanut butter sandwiches for dinner, Shanice snapped. We've seen your refrigerator, Mama. It's empty. That wasn't entirely true. I'd been saving money for the church building fund. Pastor Williams wanted to renovate the fellowship hall, and I'd committed to contributing what I could. But I wasn't about to explain my financial choices to children who drove cars worth more than I'd made in 3 years of work. We've already put a deposit down, Terrence said. You move in next Friday. My heart stopped. You what? The house goes on the market next week, Vanessa added, still typing on her phone. My realtor sister says with the right staging, we can get at least $400,000. After we pay off your mortgage, settle your bills, that'll leave roughly $300,000 to split 3 ways. Minus the cost of Sunnybrook, of course. I stared at this woman, this stranger my son had married, discussing my life like it was a business transaction. The casual cruelty of it all took my breath away. This isn't a discussion, Terrence said, misreading my silence as consent. It's already decided. We're your family. We know what's best. Something cold and clear settled over me then, a calm I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. Because here's what my children didn't know. 24 hours ago, I'd won the Georgia State Lottery, $8.2 million. After taxes, I was looking at roughly $5 million. I hadn't told anyone yet. The lottery office had advised me to get a lawyer first, to set up a trust to protect myself. But I'd been so excited to share the news with my babies. I'd imagined their faces, their joy. I'd already mentally divided the money 3 ways, planning to give each of them enough to change their lives. Now, watching them pick through my belongings like bargain hunters at an estate sale, I understood something my mama tried to teach me 50 years ago. Just because you birth someone doesn't mean they love you. Just because they call you mama doesn't mean they see you as a person. Okay, I said softly. They all froze. Okay? Shanice repeated. If y'all think that's best, then okay. I stood up slowly, letting them see my age, my supposed frailty. When do we tour this Sunnybrook place? The relief on their faces was almost comical. They'd expected a fight. They'd prepared arguments, justifications. My easy agreement threw them off balance. Tomorrow, Terrence said quickly. We can all go together. That'll be nice, I said. A family outing. That night, after they'd loaded up their cars with my possessions, DeAndre took the TV, Shanice wrapped up my good china, Terrence hauled away Herbert's tools, I sat in the quiet house and pulled out the ticket. The numbers stared back at me. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, and Powerball 8. 7 for the 7 years Herbert and I courted before he proposed. 14 for the address of our first apartment. 23 for the day we got married. 31 for the years we had together before his heart gave out. 42 for my age when I finally went back to school and got my nursing degree. And 8? 8 was the number of times I'd played these same numbers over the past 3 years, ever since Herbert passed. He used to say I was foolish wasting $2 a week on lottery tickets, but I'd told him it wasn't about winning. It was about hope, about believing something good could still happen. Well, something good had happened, and now I knew exactly what to do with it. I picked up my phone and called the number on the back of the ticket. A woman answered after 3 rings. Georgia Lottery Commission, this is Yolanda speaking. How can I help you? Her voice was warm, genuine. It made me want to cry, hearing kindness after the coldness of my children. Hi, baby, I said. My name is Agnes Carmichael, and I need to claim a prize. But first, I need to know, do you know any good lawyers? Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. The tour of Sunnybrook Care Facility was scheduled for 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Terrence picked me up in his Mercedes, the leather seats so pristine I was afraid to sit down. Vanessa had opted out, something about a hair appointment, which was fine by me. The less I had to see her calculating eyes, the better. Shanice and DeAndre met us in the parking lot. The building looked exactly as I'd expected. A squat, beige structure with barred windows and a parking lot full of potholes. The sign out front was missing 2 letters, Sun/Brook, and someone had spray-painted something obscene on the handicap ramp. It looks better inside, Shanice said, though her voice held no conviction. It didn't look better inside. The smell hit me first, a combination of boiled vegetables, industrial bleach, and something else I couldn't quite name. Despair, maybe. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, flickering occasionally. In the common room, about a dozen elderly residents sat in wheelchairs, facing a television that blared The Price is Right at maximum volume. None of them were watching. A woman in wrinkled scrubs approached us, her name tag crooked. You must be the Carmichael family. I'm Brenda, the director. Let me show you around. The tour lasted 10 minutes. Brenda showed us the dining hall, gray tables, gray chairs, gray food on gray trays. She showed us the activities room, 2 boxes of incomplete puzzles and a shelf of books from the 1970s. She showed us the shared room that would be mine, 2 beds separated by a stained curtain, shared bathroom, window that looked out onto a dumpster. We have bingo on Thursdays, Brenda said, echoing Vanessa's earlier pitch. And Pastor Mike from First Methodist comes every other Sunday for services. First Methodist, not Second Baptist, where I'd worshipped for 43 years, where Herbert's memorial service had been held, where I'd sung in the choir, taught Sunday school, organized the annual fish fry that funded our youth scholarships. "What do you think, Mama?" Terrence asked. I thought it looked like a prison. I thought it looked like the place where hope went to die. I thought my children had valued my house over my dignity, but I smiled. "It's interesting." "The best part," Brenda said, pulling out a folder, "is our affordable rate. Only $3,200 a month, all-inclusive, and we have an opening available immediately." $3,200 a month. I did the quick math. With my Social Security covering most of it, my children would need to chip in maybe $500 total, pocket change for them, but apparently still too much to let me keep my independence. "We'll take it," Shanice said. "Wonderful." Brenda's smile revealed lipstick on her teeth. "I'll prepare the paperwork. When can your mother move in?" "Friday," DeAndre said. "We've already started packing her things." I'd stopped listening. Through the window of Brenda's office, I could see another building next door. It was newer, elegant, all glass and modern architecture. A discreet sign out front read Magnolia Heights Luxury Senior Living. "What's that place?" I asked, pointing. Brenda glanced over her shoulder dismissively. "Oh, that's Magnolia Heights. Very exclusive, very expensive. They start at $8,000 a month, and there's usually a 2-year waiting list. Nothing like our community-focused approach here at Sunnybrook." Community-focused. Is that what we were calling it? "Can we see it?" I asked. My children exchanged uncomfortable looks. "Mama, we already found you a place," Terrence said. "I'd just like to look. Compare the two. Is that okay?" They couldn't refuse without seeming cruel, or maybe they just wanted to humor the old woman they were about to lock away. Either way, 20 minutes later, we stood in the marble lobby of Magnolia Heights. The difference was night and day, literally. While Sunnybrook had harsh fluorescent lighting, Magnolia Heights had natural sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Instead of the smell of institutional food, there was fresh coffee and the scent of flowers from the arrangements in the lobby. Instead of scattered residents in wheelchairs, well-dressed seniors walked past us, laughing, heading to what looked like a restaurant. A tall woman in an elegant pantsuit approached us, her smile genuine. "Welcome to Magnolia Heights. I'm Diana Foster, the executive director. How can I help you today?" "We're just looking," Shanice said quickly. "Our mother is actually moving into Sunnybrook next door." "Oh." Something flickered in Diana's eyes. Pity, maybe. Or judgment. "Well, we're happy to give you a tour if you'd like to see what we offer." What they offered was everything Sunnybrook wasn't. Private apartments with full kitchens and balconies, a gourmet dining room with a menu that changed daily, an art studio, a library, a fitness center with personal trainers, a meditation garden, a movie theater, a computer lab, even a small grocery store on the first floor. "We also offer transportation to local churches of all denominations," Diana said, leading us through the building. "We have partnerships with several congregations, including Second Baptist." My heart jumped. Second Baptist Church? On Morrison Avenue? "That's the one. Pastor Williams actually serves on our advisory board. We provide free transportation to Sunday services and Wednesday night Bible study." I felt tears prick my eyes. These people had thought about everything. They'd considered that residents might want to stay connected to their spiritual homes, their communities. They'd treated their seniors like whole people with lives and preferences and histories. "How much did you say this costs?" DeAndre asked, his tone making it clear the question was rhetorical. "We couldn't afford it." Case closed. "Our studios start at $8,000 monthly," Diana said. "But we also have 2- and 3-bedroom suites for residents who want space for visitors or a home office. Those range from $12,000 to $20,000 monthly, depending on the location and amenities." Terrence whistled low. "That's substantial." "Quality care is an investment," Diana said smoothly. "We believe our seniors deserve the best." The best. When was the last time my children had thought I deserved the best? We finished the tour in the lobby where Diana handed me a brochure with her card tucked inside. Please call if you have any questions, Mrs. Carmichael. We'd be honored to have you as part of our community. In the parking lot, my children couldn't wait to mock what we'd just seen. Can you believe $20,000 a month? Shanice laughed. For what? A fancy cafeteria? It's ridiculous, DeAndre agreed. Nobody needs all that. Sunnybrook has everything you need, Mama. Besides, Terrence added, unlocking his Mercedes, it's not like we could afford it anyway, so there's no point in even thinking about it. I clutched Diana's card in my pocket and said nothing. That's when I knew exactly what I was going to do. Friday morning, the day I was supposed to move into Sunnybrook, I called Diana Foster. Mrs. Carmichael, she said warmly, how can I help you? I'd like to buy Magnolia Heights, I said. There was a long pause. I'm sorry, did you say? Buy it, the whole building. How much would that cost? Another pause, longer this time. Mrs. Carmichael, Magnolia Heights isn't for sale. It's owned by a development company and… Everything's for sale for the right price, I said, echoing something Herbert used to say. I'd like to make an offer. Can you connect me with whoever I need to talk to? To her credit, Diana didn't laugh or hang up. May I ask, are you serious? As a heart attack baby, I won some money recently, and I'd like to invest it in something meaningful, something that'll make a difference. Can you help me or not? Yes. Yes, I can. Give me 24 hours to make some calls. I hung up and looked around my empty living room. My children had already taken everything they wanted. The house echoed with absence, but for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt powerful. I felt alive. My phone rang. It was Terrence. Mama, we're picking you up at noon. The room at Sunnybrook is ready. Make sure you're packed. I'll be ready, I promised. Oh, I'd be ready, just not for what they were expecting. Diana Foster called me back Thursday evening, just as I was eating a bowl of soup in my nearly empty kitchen. My children had taken the good dishes, so I was using a plastic container Herbert had saved from some takeout place years ago. Mrs. Carmichael, I have some interesting news. I set down my spoon. I'm listening. The development company that owns Magnolia Heights has been looking for a buyer for the past year. They built 3 facilities like this across Georgia, but this one has been challenging to maintain profitably. They're willing to sell for $16 million, but… She paused. I managed to negotiate them down to $12 million if you can close within 60 days and agree to keep the current staff. $12 million. Even with my winnings, that would take everything and then some. What if I just want to live there? I asked. As a resident? We have a penthouse suite available. 3 bedrooms, full kitchen, 2 balconies. $20,000 a month, or you can buy it outright for $1.2 million. I did the math in my head. If I bought the penthouse and put the rest of my money in investments like my new lawyer Wallace Turnbull suggested, I could live comfortably for the rest of my life. I could travel, spoil my grandchildren, support my church, and never worry about money again. But that wouldn't teach my children anything. I want to buy the whole building, I said, but I need you to keep this quiet until Monday. Can you do that? Mrs. Carmichael, I have to ask, do you actually have this kind of money? I smiled. Diana, baby, call my lawyer. His name is Wallace Turnbull. He's with Turnbull and Associates downtown. He'll send you proof of funds by tomorrow morning. Another pause, then, You're really serious? Dead serious. Now, do we have a deal? Yes, ma'am, we have a deal. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet house and let myself feel everything I'd been pushing down for the past week. The hurt, the betrayal, the deep, aching loneliness of realizing your children see you as a burden instead of a person. Herbert would have known what to do. He always did. But Herbert was gone, and I had to figure this out on my own. My phone buzzed with a text from Shanice. Don't forget to pack your medications. And maybe just bring comfortable clothes. Nothing fancy. It's not like you'll be going anywhere." That last line burned. It wasn't like I'd be going anywhere. They really did see Sunnybrook as a place to store me until I died. Somewhere out of sight, out of mind, out of their way. Well, they were in for a surprise. Friday morning arrived too quickly and too slowly at the same time. I'd packed a small suitcase with clothes, toiletries, and my medication bottles. I left out the lottery ticket and the papers Wallace had given me. Those stayed in my purse, close to my body. At 11:30, there was a knock on my door. I opened it, expecting Terrence. Instead, I found Imani Crawford standing on my porch, holding a casserole dish covered in foil. Imani was a nurse at Grady Hospital, 32 years old, with kind eyes and a smile that reminded me of my own daughter, back when Shanice used to smile at me with genuine warmth instead of calculated patience. Imani lived 3 houses down and had been checking on me ever since Herbert died. She brought me dinner once a week, drove me to doctor's appointments when the bus schedule didn't line up, sat with me during the lonely hours after church on Sundays. She was more family to me than my own blood had been these past few years. "Miss Agnes," she said, her brow furrowed with concern. "Is it true? Are your kids really putting you in Sunnybrook?" Word traveled fast in our neighborhood. That was both a blessing and a curse. "They think it's best," I said, taking the casserole. The smell of her mac and cheese made my stomach growl. I hadn't had a proper meal in days. "Best? Miss Agnes, that place is terrible. I've seen patients come through the ER from there with bed sores, dehydration, medication errors." She stopped herself, lowering her voice. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't speak ill of anywhere. But you deserve better. I appreciate your concern, baby. Miss Agnes, if it's about money, we can start a GoFundMe. The church would help." "Pastor Williams would—" "It's not about money. Then what is it about?" I couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. But I squeezed her hand. "Sometimes you have to let people show you who they really are. And sometimes you have to trust that the Lord has a plan." She looked like she wanted to argue, but a Mercedes pulled up to the curb. Terrence, right on time. "That's my ride," I said. Imani's eyes flashed with something. Anger, maybe, or sadness. "You know where I live if you need anything. Anything at all. Day or night." "I know, baby. Thank you." Terrence got out of the car. His suit probably worth more than 3 months of my Social Security checks. He barely glanced at Imani. "Ready, Mama?" "As I'll ever be." The drive to Sunnybrook was quiet. Terrence made small talk about work, about his latest promotion, about the vacation to Dubai he and Vanessa were planning. He didn't ask how I was feeling, didn't ask if I was scared or sad or angry. He just talked at me, filling the silence with noise. Shanice and DeAndre were already in the parking lot when we arrived. They'd brought more boxes, things they'd packed for me. I saw my photo albums, my Bible, a few pieces of costume jewelry Herbert had given me over the years. The real jewelry, my wedding ring, my pearls, the diamond earrings, those had mysteriously disappeared. Probably already in Shanice's jewelry box. "Let's get you checked in," DeAndre said, grabbing the suitcase from Terrence's trunk. Brenda met us at the door, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Carmichael, welcome to your new home!" My new home. The words felt like a prison sentence. She led us to the same depressing room I'd seen on Wednesday. Someone had made an attempt to brighten it up. A sad little plant on the windowsill, a crocheted blanket on the bed. But it still felt institutional. Cold. Nothing like the home Herbert and I had built. "Now we just need to go over some paperwork," Brenda said, pulling out a stack of forms. "Financial responsibility, medical consent, do not resuscitate orders." "Wait," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Do not resuscitate orders?" "It's standard," Brenda said quickly, "for all our residents over 70. I'm not signing that. My children exchanged glances. Mama, it's just a formality, Shanice said. I said I'm not signing it. Mrs. Carmichael, Brenda's voice took on that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate. At your age, it's important to think about quality of life versus quantity. I'm 70, not 90. I walk 2 miles every morning. My mind is sharp, my heart is strong, and I'm not signing anything that tells doctors to let me die without trying to save me. The room fell silent. Fine, Brenda said tightly. We can skip that one for now. But we do need your financial information. How will you be paying? This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. I opened my purse and pulled out a checkbook. Not my regular checkbook, the new one Wallace had ordered for me, the one connected to my lottery account. I'll be paying in full, I said. For 3 months up front. That's the standard, right? Brenda's eyes widened. Yes, but, Mrs. Carmichael, that's almost $10,000. Are you sure? I wrote the check slowly, deliberately. Made it out to Sunnybrook Care Facility. Signed my name with a flourish. Then I tore it out and handed it to her. There, that should cover everything. My children stared at the check like it was written in a foreign language. Mama, Terrence said slowly, where did you get this kind of money? I've been saving, I said simply. Saving? You eat peanut butter sandwiches because you can't afford groceries. I never said I couldn't afford groceries. I said I eat peanut butter sandwiches. There's a difference. Shanice snatched the check from Brenda's hand, studying it. This account. Mama, what is this? Georgia Trust and Estate account? Since when do you have... Since I decided to take control of my own finances, I said. Is there a problem? The three of them looked at each other, and I could see the wheels turning. If I had money, real money, they'd made a terrible mistake. They'd shown their hand too early. They'd revealed their true intentions before securing what they really wanted. But it was too late to back out now. I was here, the paperwork was being processed, and they couldn't exactly admit they'd only put me here because they thought I was poor. No problem, Terrence finally said, his voice tight. No problem at all. We're just... surprised. Life is full of surprises, I said. After the paperwork was done and my children had left, promising to visit soon in voices that suggested they'd do no such thing, I sat on the narrow bed and looked around my new room. My roommate was apparently in the dining hall. I had a few hours to myself. I pulled out my phone and called Wallace. Mrs. Carmichael, how did it go? Perfect. I'm checked in. They processed my payment. Now I need you to do something for me. Name it. I need you to draw up a new will. Everything, and I mean everything, goes to Amani Crawford. She lives at 2847 Oakwood Drive. I'll text you her information. Mrs. Carmichael, are you certain? What about your children, your grandchildren? My grandchildren will be fine. I'll set up education trusts for them. Small ones, enough for college, but not enough to spoil them. But the bulk of my estate? That goes to Amani. She's been more of a daughter to me than my own daughter has been in years. And your children? They get $1 each. I want it in writing that they're not forgotten. They're just not rewarded. Wallace was quiet for a moment. When would you like this executed? Have it ready by Monday. And Wallace, I need you to be at Magnolia Heights Monday morning at 10. Bring the will, bring the proof of purchase for the building, bring everything. We're going to have ourselves a family meeting. A family meeting? Oh, yes. I'm going to teach my children a lesson about respecting their elders, about kindness, about what really matters in this world. I could hear the smile in his voice. I'll be there. That night, lying in the uncomfortable bed at Sunnybrook, listening to my roommate snore and the fluorescent lights hum and someone crying down the hall, I thought about Herbert. About what he'd say if he could see me now. He'd probably shake his head and call me stubborn. He'd probably say I was being too harsh, that family was family, that I should forgive and forget. But Herbert never had to watch his children divide up his life like yard sale inventory. He never had to hear his daughter discuss his worth in terms of real estate value. He never had to feel invisible in his own home. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way, and I was about to teach my children the hardest lesson of their lives. My phone buzzed. A text from Imani. "Just checking on you. How's your first night? Do you need anything?" I smiled and typed back, "I'm fine, baby. Better than fine. See you Sunday after church?" "Absolutely. I'll bring lunch." "Perfect. I'll have a surprise for you." "What kind of surprise?" "The kind that changes everything." I set my phone down and closed my eyes. Monday couldn't come fast enough, but first I had to get through the weekend. And I had to make sure my children thought everything was going according to their plan. I had to be the helpless, grateful old woman they expected me to be. Just for 2 more days. Then all hell was going to break loose. Saturday morning at Sunnybrook started with lukewarm oatmeal and the sound of someone's medication alarm beeping incessantly down the hall. My roommate, a woman named Gladys, who barely spoke, shuffled past me to the bathroom at 5:30 without a word. The walls were so thin I could hear everything. The toilet flushing, the water running, her labored breathing. This was supposed to be my life now. I got dressed and walked to the common room, where a handful of residents were already parked in front of the television. The Price is Right was on again. I was starting to think it was the only channel this place received. "Mrs. Carmichael?" A young aide approached me, looking harried. "Your daughter called. She said she's coming to visit this afternoon." Shanice, of course. She wanted to make sure I was settling in. Or more likely, she wanted to figure out where I'd gotten that money. She arrived at 2 o'clock with DeAndre in tow. Both of them wore smiles that didn't reach their eyes. "Mama," Shanice hugged me stiffly. "How are you adjusting?" "It's fine," I said. "Just fine?" DeAndre looked around the depressing common room. "Come on, Mama. Be honest. This place is perfect for you, right? Everything you need?" I could have told them the truth, that the food was barely edible, that the staff was overworked and underpaid, that I'd heard 3 residents calling for help last night and it took 20 minutes for anyone to respond. But I didn't. "It's what you thought was best," I said instead. They exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. "About that check you wrote," Shanice said, sitting down next to me. "Mama, we're just concerned. That's a lot of money. Where exactly did it come from?" "I told you. Savings." "But, Mama, your Social Security is only—" "I worked my whole life," I interrupted. "Herbert and I had life insurance. We had investments. Just because I live modestly doesn't mean I'm poor." This was technically true. Herbert's life insurance had paid out $50,000. I'd put most of it away, only touching it for emergencies. But my children didn't know that because they'd never asked about my finances before they decided to take over my life. "We just want to make sure nobody's taking advantage of you," DeAndre said. "Scammers target elderly people. I'm not being scammed, and I'm not elderly, I'm 70. That's elderly, Mama." I stood up. "I'm tired. I think I'll go rest." "Wait." Shanice grabbed my arm. "Have you talked to a financial advisor? Because if you have money, maybe you don't need to be here. Maybe you could..." "Could what? Come back home? To the house you're selling?" I looked at her directly. "Or are you worried I might spend my savings before you get a chance to inherit it?" Her face went red. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I walked away, leaving them sputtering in the common room. Behind me, I heard DeAndre mutter, "She's losing it. We did the right thing." That night, Imani texted me, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow after church. Pastor Williams mentioned you during announcements." "Everyone misses you." I typed back, "Tell everyone I miss them too. And Imani, make sure you're free Monday morning around 10. I need you to come somewhere with me." "Where?" "It's a surprise. Trust me." Sunday morning, I got dressed in my best church clothes. A navy dress and the costume jewelry Shanice had deemed not worth stealing. A Sunnybrook van was supposed to take residents to various churches, but when I asked about going to Second Baptist, the driver shook his head. "We don't go that far out. First Methodist is our Sunday route." But Diana at Magnolia Heights said, "Magnolia Heights isn't Sunnybrook, ma'am. We got budget constraints." So I couldn't even worship with my own church family. Another freedom stripped away. I was standing in the lobby, trying not to cry, when a familiar car pulled up. Imani's beat-up Honda Civic, the one with the dent in the passenger door and the bumper sticker that read, "Grady Hospital nurses, heroes don't always wear capes." She got out wearing a yellow dress that made her look like sunshine. "Miss Agnes, you ready for church?" I could have kissed her. The service at Second Baptist was exactly what my soul needed. Pastor Williams preached about the story of Job, about how God sometimes allows us to be tested, not to break us, but to reveal our strength, about how loss can lead to restoration, about how the ending of our story is often better than the beginning. I felt like he was speaking directly to me. After service, during fellowship hour, what felt like the entire congregation came to check on me. Sister Marshall brought me a plate of her famous fried chicken. Brother Thompson offered to come fix anything that needed fixing at Sunnybrook. The youth choir sang a special song, "His Eye is on the Sparrow," and dedicated it to me. These people loved me, really loved me, not for what I could give them, but for who I was. "Miss Agnes," Pastor Williams pulled me aside, "I heard about your living situation. If there's anything the church can do..." "Pastor, you've already done so much, but I want you to know..." I lowered my voice. "The Lord has been good to me, very good, and I'm about to make sure that goodness spreads to the people who deserve it." He studied my face. "You've got that look Herbert used to get when he was about to do something bold." That's because I learned from the best. After church, Imani drove me to her apartment, a small one-bedroom she kept immaculately clean despite working 12-hour shifts at the hospital. She'd made Sunday dinner: pot roast, collard greens, cornbread, sweet potato pie. We ate and talked, and I realized this was what family was supposed to feel like. Not obligation, not calculation, just genuine care and connection. "Miss Agnes," Imani said, cutting me another slice of pie, "I have to tell you something. I called Adult Protective Services about Sunnybrook." I set down my fork. "You did what?" "I know your children put you there, and I know they probably had their reasons, but Miss Agnes, that place isn't safe. And I couldn't sleep knowing you were there, and I didn't at least try to..." "Imani, baby, stop." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Tomorrow morning..." "I need you to call in sick to work. Can you do that?" "Why?" "Because we're going to Magnolia Heights at 10 o'clock, and you're going to want to be there for what happens next." "I don't understand." "You will. Now, do you trust me?" She squeezed my hand. "With my life." Monday morning, I woke up at Sunnybrook for the last time. I packed my small suitcase, left the depressing room behind, and walked out the front door. Nobody stopped me. Nobody even noticed. Imani picked me up at 9:30. She kept asking questions. Where were we going? What was happening? Why did I seem so calm? But I just smiled and told her to drive. When we pulled up to Magnolia Heights, her eyes widened. "Miss Agnes, what are we doing here?" "You'll see." Diana Foster met us in the lobby, looking nervous. "Mrs. Carmichael, everything is ready. Your lawyer is waiting in the conference room, and your children just arrived." "My children?" Imani looked confused. "Miss Agnes, what's going on?" I took her hand. "Come with me, baby. It's time." The conference room was elegant. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a massive table, comfortable chairs. Wallace Turnbull sat at the head of the table in an expensive suit, papers spread out in front of him, and there, looking confused and increasingly angry, sat Terrence, Shanice, and DeAndre. "Mama?" Terrence stood up. What is this? You said you had a family emergency. Sit down, I said, my voice harder than they'd ever heard it. All of you. They sat. Who's this? Shanice glared at Imani. The neighbor? This is Imani Crawford, I said, and she's the reason we're all here today. Mrs. Carmichael, Wallace began, pulling out documents. Should I proceed? Please. He cleared his throat. On October 28, 2025, Agnes Marie Carmichael won the Georgia State Lottery. The winning amount, after taxes, is approximately $5.2 million. The room exploded. What? You won the lottery? $5 million? I held up my hand. Let him finish. Wallace continued, unruffled. Mrs. Carmichael has since made several large purchases and financial arrangements. First, she has purchased this building, Magnolia Heights Luxury Senior Living, for $12 million. $12 million? DeAndre's voice cracked. But you only won $5. I took out a loan for the remaining amount, I explained. The rental income from the other residents will more than cover the mortgage payments and operational costs. It's called an investment. Something y'all might want to learn about. Terrence's face had gone pale. Mama, why would you... Second, Wallace interrupted. Mrs. Carmichael has established educational trusts for each of her grandchildren. These trusts will cover 4 years of college tuition and expenses at any accredited university. For a moment, my children looked hopeful. Third, Wallace pulled out another document. Mrs. Carmichael has executed a new will. Upon her death, the bulk of her estate, including this building, all financial assets, and personal property, will go to Miss Imani Crawford. Imani gasped. What? No, Miss Agnes, I can't. And what about us? Shanice was on her feet now, her voice shrill. We're your children. You are, I agreed. Which is why you each get $1. I want it clearly stated that I didn't forget you. I'm actively choosing not to reward you. The silence that followed was deafening. You can't do this, DeAndre said. We're your family. Family, I repeated the word slowly. Is that what you call it? Family is what you were being when you decided to put me in Sunnybrook? When you divided up my belongings before I was even gone? When you tried to make me sign a DNR order so I'd be easier to dispose of? We were trying to help you, Shanice cried. Help me? Or help yourselves to my house? I stood up, and I swear I felt Herbert's strength flowing through me. Let me tell you what family looks like. Family looks like Imani bringing me dinner every week for 3 years. Family looks like her driving me to doctor's appointments without being asked. Family looks like her sitting with me when I was lonely, listening when I needed to talk, treating me like a person instead of a problem to be solved. We love you, Mama, Terrence said, but his voice was weak. No, you don't. You love my house. You love the idea of an inheritance. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you would have asked what I wanted. You would have talked to me instead of making decisions for me. You would have seen me. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I wasn't sad. I was free. This is what's going to happen, I continued. I'm moving into the penthouse suite here at Magnolia Heights. I'm going to live the rest of my life in comfort and dignity. I'm going to stay connected to my church, my community, my real family. And when I die, hopefully many, many years from now, everything I've built will go to someone who actually deserves it. Mama, please. Shanice was crying too, but I suspected it was more about the money than anything else. We're sorry. We made a mistake. We can fix this. Just give us another chance. I gave you 70 years of chances, I said quietly. I gave you everything I had. And the moment you thought I had nothing left to give, you tried to warehouse me and sell my life. So that's it? DeAndre's voice was bitter. You're just going to cut us off? I'm going to live my life, I corrected. You're welcome to be part of it if you can learn to treat me with respect. If you can learn to see me as your mother instead of as an asset to be managed. But the money, the house, the inheritance, that ship has sailed. Wallace gathered his papers. These documents are legally binding and have been properly executed. If you wish to contest them, you're welcome to try. But I should warn you that Mrs. Carmichael is of sound mind and body, and we have extensive documentation of her decision-making capacity. My children looked at each other, then at me, then at Amani, who was still holding my hand, tears streaming down her face. I think we're done here, I said. Terrence stood up slowly. You're going to regret this, Mama. The only thing I regret, I said, is that it took me 70 years to stand up for myself. They left without another word. Through the window, I watched them argue in the parking lot, probably already calling lawyers, trying to figure out if they could break my will, scheming about how to get what they thought they deserved. I didn't care. I was done carrying their expectations. Miss Agnes, Amani finally found her voice. I can't accept this. It's too much. I don't deserve— You deserve everything, I interrupted. And more importantly, you'll use it right. You'll help people. You'll make a difference. That money, this building, it's going to change lives because you're going to make sure it does. But your children will be fine. They all have good jobs, nice houses, stable lives. They don't need my money. They just wanted it. I pulled her into a hug. You gave me kindness when I needed it most. You saw me when everyone else looked through me. That's worth more than any inheritance. Diana appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Carmichael, your penthouse suite is ready whenever you'd like to see it. I took Amani's hand. Let's go see our new home. Our? I'm going to need a property manager, I said with a smile. Someone I trust. Someone who understands what quality care really means. The job pays well, and there's an apartment included. What do you say? She laughed through her tears. I say, when do I start? The penthouse suite was breathtaking. 3 bedrooms with king-sized beds, a full kitchen with granite countertops, 2 balconies overlooking the city, and windows that let in so much natural light it felt like heaven. There was space for Herbert's recliner, which I'd have the movers retrieve from storage, space for my photo albums, space for a life that was truly mine. That evening, sitting on the balcony watching the sunset, I called Pastor Williams. Pastor, it's Agnes. I have a proposal for you. I'm listening. How would you like to hold services here at Magnolia Heights? We have a beautiful community room, and I know several of our residents would love to have church right here. We could start a satellite campus of Second Baptist. He was quiet for a moment. Agnes Carmichael, what have you been up to? I laughed. Just following your sermon, Pastor, about how our ending can be better than our beginning, about how God restores what was lost. Well then, I think that sounds like exactly what we should do. Over the next few weeks, word spread through the community about what I'd done. Some people thought I was too harsh on my children. Others said I should have left them more. But most people, especially the elderly folks at church who dealt with ungrateful children themselves, understood. I got 3 voicemails from Terrence, all variations of "we need to talk about your decision." I deleted them without listening to the whole message. Shanice sent a letter saying she was concerned about my mental health and suggesting I should see a doctor. I sent it back with a note. I'm concerned about your character. Might want to look into that. DeAndre showed up at Magnolia Heights one day, trying to sweet-talk his way past security. Diana had him removed. He didn't try again. But my grandchildren? They called. They visited. And slowly, cautiously, I started building relationships with them that didn't involve their parents' interference. I told them about their grandfather, about the struggles I'd overcome, about the importance of treating people with dignity no matter their age. And Amani? She quit her job at Grady and became the best property manager Magnolia Heights ever had. She renovated the activities program, hired additional staff, improved the food quality. and made sure every resident felt valued. Together, we created the kind of place I'd wished existed when my children were trying to warehouse me. 6 months later, on a Sunday after church, I stood in the community room at Magnolia Heights and watched Pastor Williams baptize 3 new members of our satellite congregation. The room was full of residents, staff members, and community members who'd been drawn to what we were building here. This was my legacy, not money in a bank account, not a house to be divided up and sold, but a community of people caring for each other, seeing each other, treating each other with the dignity every human being deserves. Herbert would have been proud. And me? I was finally, truly free. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.